Most coaches don't struggle because they're bad at coaching. They struggle because their delivery is messy. Workouts are scattered, onboarding is unclear, check ins are inconsistent, and by week 3, clients start drifting off. I've built hundreds of peer distinction systems for online coaches over the years, and almost every account I open has the same issue. There's good intentions, but there's no structure. So, in this video, I'm going to build a complete flagship coaching program inside Peak Distinction from scratch. Not just workouts, but the actual structure, the phases, the onboarding, the groups, and of course, the automated or semi automated check ins with all the progression logic included. The way it should be built if you want your coaching to feel professional, clean, and scalable. So if your current setup feels heavier than it should, or you're constantly tweaking and rebuilding things, this will show you what done properly actually looks like. So here's what we're building today. A 12-week flagship structure split into clear phases, a clean onboarding flow, automated check-ins, a progression system that doesn't rely on you chasing clients, and a client journey that makes sense from day 1 to week 12. I'll explain why I make each decision as we go. So you're not just copying the clicks, you're understanding the logic behind it. So let's jump inside P Distinction and build this properly. So here we are inside P Distinction. Now, all right, before we even click anything, I want to explain how I think about a 12-week program. Most coaches start by building workouts, and that's the mistake. A 12-week coaching program isn't 36 random sessions. It's a journey that needs phases. So the first thing I'm going to do is structure this into a number of different phases, and we're going to do this over 3 phases with 4-week periods. Not because 4 weeks is magical, but because psychologically, clients need markers of progress. 4 weeks is long enough to build momentum, but short enough to feel achievable, and clear enough to review and adjust. So instead of just building week 1, week 2, week 3 endlessly, I build phase 1, the foundation, phase 2, the progression, and phase 3, performance and consolidation. So let's take a look at the structure inside PT Distinction. So I'm going to go and look at an account that I've already built up. And this is a test account that I've created just before we started this video. So to do that, I'm actually going to go into my search at the top, and I'm going to go and type in Ash Burley. We're going to go and bring up the account inside here. So inside this account now, actually nothing's really happened. This is a brand new client. I've just loaded it up with a 12-week program. This is the 12-week program that we use as part of our standard done-for-you setup that we actually help and adapt for our done-for-you clients. So this particular setup is being used with hundreds, if not close to probably 1,000 different programs around the world for different coaches and different businesses. And we just adapted it to suit using these principles. Now, of course, with our done-for-you service, we build out a lot more than just a 12-week program, but this is what a lot of people tend to use as their flagship offer, at least to go and get started with. So I want to quickly show you around this and talk about how this whole process works. Inside Peak Distinction, you do actually have a choice here. You can build one long 12-week program, or you can build these into separate phases, programs, controlled progression, using groups. Now, I always prefer to separate this up using groups. Why? Because it gives you cleaner control over automation and progression later. And if a client needs to repeat a phase, say phase 1, you don't have to rebuild the whole thing. You just reassign that phase or that group depending on the tweaks you need to make. It also allows you to adapt things extremely quickly. Whether you want to adapt something such as a workout program or a nutritional protocol, you can do this in a matter of seconds for every individual client, allowing you to take on a much higher number of clients, therefore making more money and making your business much more scalable. So the way we do that is using something called group stacking. You can find the groups by going into the group menu at the top here. You can see these different groups that have been set up. Now down here, you can see I have a number of different groups, most of them starting on the same date. Some have started on different dates. So we have a flagship onboarding group, a results tracking group, a flagship coaching content group, a workout support group, automated workouts, and a weekly review group. And we have something called a team chat, which is like a group chat that we can have inside the programs. I do think building a community and building a group makes a big difference when it comes to online coaching programs, especially in this day and age. It's important to have this level of humanity there, especially when we're trying to think about how things are adapting now with what's called AI trainers, which is going to be a new part of the market that is growing quite rapidly at the moment. So inside here, you can see we split these groups up. Most are starting on this date here. Down the bottom, we have the automated workouts that starts on the first Monday after they sign up. And then we have something called the weekly review. Now, we start these on different dates here. The workouts is to start on the Monday just because that's what we chose to do. There is some logic behind that as well, because you may want to adapt and adjust the workouts based on the onboarding for the client. And we have something called an onboarding week, which I'm going to demonstrate in a moment. And then we have our weekly reviews down here. Now, when it comes to doing weekly reviews, you really want to start batching this together. What we've done here is made this weekly review fall on the weekend. Normally, and again, this depends on the market and niche you're working with. And of course, any kind of program you build should be adapted to the market and niche you're actually working with. But depending what it is, a lot of people have time off on the weekends. So we like the weekly reviews to fall on the weekend. This allows them to go and complete it. So then when you come back on the Monday and you start work again, you can kind of batch all those check-ins together and give feedback all at once. This saves a lot of time for you and makes just life a lot easier for you to do other things inside your business too. So we start this on the weekend all automatically. And this is one of the reasons we like to use groups. It allows us to control when we actually start and stop certain elements of the program. So let's go and take a look at what this actually looks like inside this client account. So first of all, we can look at the different items. So we can go to the item section here. You can see we have the workout programs. They're actually drip feeding out to the client. Again, this is something I think is really important when it comes to putting something together. I'm just going to change the order to make this easier. You want to make sure that you're not just overloading the client with information straight away, but of course you want to make life a little bit easier for you. So what we've done is we've created a group here which just has these workouts in. And inside these workouts, we split them into those 4-week phases that we talked about earlier. And these 4 weeks phases progress. You can see we have them scheduled in so clients get reminders. We also have things on the schedule set up so a client can move them. Again, I think this is a really important thing to do with any online online program, is you want to take whatever there is, say a workout or any activity you want to go and do, and then you want to give them the option to move it to a time and day that suits them with whatever parameter you want to set. By doing so, it means they actually commit to doing that particular thing, and then you can actually hold them accountable to it as well. So inside here, we actually have that pre-built out and scheduled, and we have these drip feeding out. So they appear automatically after 4 weeks and after 8 weeks, and then finally the last one comes up at the end. And we can do exactly the same with our coaching content. We actually have our coaching content organized. So we have our check-in details, coaching modules, exercise support, onboarding, and resources. Now, these different folders come from different groups. Again, this gives the flexibility that I'm going to demonstrate very, very shortly. Also down here, you'll notice, and this is mainly just for what we do at PTD Ninja. However, I would recommend you doing this, especially if you have a team of people, is actually building SOPs into your system so they're an integral part of it. These SOPs are just for you or your team to go and see. You can see they're hidden here so clients can't see them. And this means that no matter what you're doing, whether you're going to any kind of group or whether any content from those groups is added to a client's account, those SOPs are pre-built out. And what it allows you to do is for you and your team to understand how to quickly do something. So, for example, here, if you want to adapt coaching or habits for a client, you can literally click on this. Your clients can't see it, and it will show your team exactly how to do it step by step. Again, I find this a really useful way of setting up your systems. So it just allows you to not have to overthink anything. Think, oh, how do I go and do this now? I really can't remember how to do this. I'm running out of time. These SOPs just make things so much clearer and easier for you. So inside each of these, you can see we have the different coaching modules. Again, they are drip feeding out the client week by week. Same for exercise support, onboarding documents, the different resources we have down here. And of course, we have our check-in details at the top explaining all the check-in. So you can see how everything kind of falls together for the individual client. And again, because these things are hidden and drip feeding, the client's not going to see them. It's not going to cause any overwhelm, which is a big part of this particular structure. We do the same for the forms and questionnaires. We do the same for the habits. And of course, we do the same for the tracking as well. So let's just head over to the schedule and let's just talk about this particular process that they're going through. I think one of the things here is to really understand these phases that your clients are going to go through when you're putting together a 12-week program. As I mentioned, we split it into some different phases. The first phase is going to be foundation phase. This phase is not about intensity, it's about rhythm. Most online clients don't fail because the workouts are too hard or the program's too hard. They fail because the system feels unclear. So in phase one, we tend to focus on a very simple structure. When it comes to workouts, clear sets and reps, not changing things all the time, changing different exercises because you think they need to be entertained. That actually makes things harder from an online perspective because every time a client logs into the app, they have to learn a new process, a new system, a new exercise, or whatever it's going to be. By keeping it consistent over those 4-week periods and maybe just changing the sets and the reps, keeping it simple, they're more likely to stick to that program. The workouts can become quicker for them, and they're more likely to adhere to the program for the long term. And then on top of that, we want to have consistent weekly layouts. It's the same kind of process each week. So again, they get used to this habit. And also we want a predictable check-in timing. So again, using those groups to make sure our check-ins fall on the days that work best for the niche and market we're working with. In this example, we have it falling on the weekend. So the whole point here is not to try and impress them, is to try and stabilize them. So now inside this phase, I typically structure something like a 3-day training week. We look at maybe some kind of optional conditional stuff, step targets and things like that. Of course, we have our weekly check-in form, and we have clear progression guidance written inside the workout notes. So it's really clear for the client exactly what they're going to go and do. We're going to look at some of these in just a moment. Now, we also will notice if you look at this, the workouts aren't just part of the system. We have lots of other things in here too, especially around the nutrition and coaching side. And during this first week, you can see that this really is just about getting that onboarding done. So the very first thing we have in here is our onboarding document. So you'll notice on that first day when people sign up, we don't give them loads of forms, we don't give them loads of videos to watch, we give them one particular document. And inside here, it explains the process. It goes through, this is what I want you to do when you first log in, gives them a couple of forms to go and complete, explains what is actually going to happen and where to go and find things. Very short, very simple. In fact, every piece of content follows that process. It keeps it short and it keeps it simple. And what we try and do in each one of these is explain what it is we want them to do, briefly, very briefly, and in their language, your niche's language, your audience's language, why they should be doing it. Then we're going to explain how they're going to do it, when they're going to do it, and what to expect next. If you can do those 5 different things in every piece of content you add into a program, there's going to be no ambiguity. Your client's going to feel more comfortable. Progression is going to be much easier. Adherence is going to be much higher, and the results are going to be much better. So inside this particular onboarding thing, as you can see, we don't overload everything when they first log in either. So we say, go and find the forms, go to the PAR queue, go to the informed consent, go to this particular area for your schedule, go to this particular area for your check-ins and so on. Explain what's going to happen and explain what to do, as in check back in tomorrow morning before breakfast. You'll also notice we haven't used a video. Now, you're more than welcome to include a video in here. And I think sometimes, especially in Peak Distinction, it's nice to have a very short in-app message video just from you to come through and say, hey, welcome to the program. I've just added some information into your schedule. Please go and check it out. That's it. Really, really simple. It adds that personal touch. In terms of getting them to do things, we find text and images much better. By using text and images, it allows people to do it in their own time. They're not, for example, commuting to work, opening up the app and going, oh, I ain't really got time to go and listen to this now. I'll do a little bit later. That later never comes. So by having it written like this, they can quickly skim through it and do the tasks they need to go and do. The other beauty about doing it this way is, especially when you're onboarding, is we build automated systems. So it's one of the beauties around PT Distinction. And by building an automated system, you don't know what time people are going to sign up. So they might sign up thinking, oh, I'll just get this stuff done tomorrow now. I haven't got time to do it now. In which case, they're already on the back foot. So what we want to do here is make it really easy for them to take these steps. So if someone logs in, imagine they're really busy, they haven't got time, you've been talking about how much easier and time efficient online training is, and they see 17 different things they have to do on the schedule when they first get in. They're going to think, oh, what have I done? How am I going to get all this stuff done and completed? So what we do is just have one item explaining the tasks and keeping it simple. That makes it more likely for them to complete the tasks as they're going through it. We pre-frame it, so it's going to take 5 or 10 minutes to do this, so they know exactly what to go and expect. And then also what they're doing is more than scheduling it, we actually get them to navigate around the app. So they're getting used to the device and the app itself. Again, it's a win-win all the way around. Once we've done that, we'll actually get on with the rest of the program. So the rest of the program the next morning is tracking their progress. We do that in the morning, try and keep some consistency. And then I just recommend doing it every single week. Depending on who you're working with, you might do this more often, but in reality, think about how it's going to fit in the day-to-day lives of your clients. This is not about being perfect. It's about being efficient and effective for the niche and market that you're working in. And we've found that this here, having a weekly check-in instead, or weekly results tracking that's separate from your check-in, is actually the most effective way of doing it for most clients. We then have progress photos in here. We have your weekly tracking, along with information about how to actually complete it. Again, adding that clarity and explaining to your clients exactly how all this works together. So there's no ambiguity about what's going to happen here. We then give them their first task, which is around nutrition. We get them to go and track their food diary, just like so. Again, showing them exactly how to go and do it, keeping it really, really simple. The following day, we look at goals and ambitions. They already know why they signed up because they signed up already, but we want to go and remind them a couple of days in because they're just getting the onboarding done now. We need to motivate them a little bit. They may have think about starting their workout soon and so on. So We remind them about their goals and ambitions, why they actually signed up, what their goals are going to be, what they expect to achieve in 12 weeks' time, but also in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, and beyond. The reason we do that is not just for motivation now, but also to pre-frame the upsell after the program. Because in reality, from a business perspective, most of the money online is made from retention. So even though you might be selling a flagship 12-week program like this, or an 8-week program, or a 16-week program, or whatever it is, your key is to move them into some kind of back-end offer so you can keep the subscription revenue coming in. So very early on, we start pre-framing that using this form inside here that we've created. Continue with the food diary, then we look at managing expectations in here. So we talk about exactly what to expect over those different phases that we talked about. So in this particular example, we're using 3 phases. We work with male and female, so break everything down so they can see what to expect over those different phases and also what to expect next. As I talked about already, it's important to have that information in there. One of the things I like to do with these programs, especially online, is not just to keep telling people what to do. The more you tell people, the more limitations you have in terms of scalability, because it means that they can become completely reliant on you and you doing something. So you limit your ability to scale, especially during onboarding. So even doing this phase here, more than just saying, let's go and assess the food diary, you can do that. We want them to take part in that process. We want them to start understanding how things work. So we're actually getting them to assess their own food diary. In this particular example, we use simple ways of doing it. So more than just overcomplicating it, talking about all the different macronutrients, working out numbers, overhauling every aspect of their life, doing things they've probably never done before and expect them to do it consistently. We simplify it right down. We use color-coded systems to go and do it, hand portions to make it easier, few things to choose from, and ask them to assess their own diary and see how they feel. This does 2 things from a coaching perspective. It means we can obviously assess their food diary and give them advice, but also it shows us as coaches very quickly where they're at. What is their understanding of where they're at? How do they see their day-to-day? And we're trying to get them to have these light bulb moments themselves, because that's what's going to have everlasting change. We then move into our check-in process. That starts on the first weekend in this example. Again, the day before, we actually set that expectation. We explain how the check-in is going to work. We tend to recommend using a traffic light system because it's much more scalable. We have a system that's set up in SOP that we use with our members that allows us to very quickly assess what traffic light level they're in and what we actually do if someone's in green, if someone's in amber, if someone's in red, and how to go and handle it to increase adherence. We then have our check-in form down here. Really simple, just 3 simple questions. This check-in process is different to results tracking. So results tracking, we're tracking things like body weight, measurements, that kind of thing. Later on, we'll be looking at things like steps. We'll be looking at things like sleep and so on for tracking. But your check-in is more about being subjective. We're trying to understand how that client feels about the week that's just gone. Because if you think about this when you're working in person with people, when you're working in person, you see that client walk through the door. You're speaking to them, you're having conversations with those training sessions. So if you keep seeing people coming in looking tired, even though they're actually ticking all the boxes, they're getting the results, they're hitting their reps, they're doing everything they need to go and do, and the results looking good, but they're looking tired, at some point that adherence is going to drop down because they just can't take it at that level anymore. You can see that. Online, you can't see that. So it's important we have a subjective check-in that's separate from the actual tracking. And the reason I want to keep it separate is because it's subjective, it's based on feelings, it's based on how they feel the week went. If they've had good results or bad results, that's going to affect how they feel. So we try and avoid having it on the same day if we can. It just makes things a lot more accurate in terms of what they're doing. And it also means you can look at that and then make a detailed assessment as a coach on whether you need to make adjustments to the program, even though the actual tracking is looking great. It's important that we keep their adherence long term, so we might have to make adjustments if their subjective check-ins are not looking too great. Once we've done that, we then start breaking this phase down even more. And in this example here, we're looking at introducing nutrition alongside the workouts. So on the first Monday, we have the workouts at first start. We're doing 3 days a week in here. This can be adapted and adjusted. The next thing we've got down here is for the nutrition side, where we start looking at go-to breakfasts. So more than, again, this will be different for different types of clients, but again, this is just what we've seen work really well from most online programs, the majority of people that we've worked with, is that more than actually saying, all right, let's go and do tracking macros using MyFitnessPal or Food Diary or whatever, start breaking this down so they can actually implement this into their day-to-day lives. So we focus on breakfast first. We focus on using the hand portions, and we just give them a task to go through this, to read through it, to understand the basics, look at how you portion and control a breakfast inside here. And then we show them how to adapt and adjust for their eating. And then also we give them a task for that particular day, which is to come up with 3 go-to meals, and they can write down the form. So they've got their 3 go-to breakfasts based on what they've learned. Again, giving us some time here so they understand how much time they should be spending on it. And then we give them their weekly task, which is just to take photos of their food diary. But throughout there, again, we've got the weekly tracking. We've got a few in-app messages that go out for reminders. We look at increasing their activity. And of course, we've got the check-in at the end. So keeping it pretty simple. And again, you can see the workouts here drip feeding out. When it comes to the workouts themselves, when we start introducing these, we don't just have the workouts. We actually include some pre-workout questionnaires and post-workout questionnaires. Again, these are really important so we can understand how they're feeling before a session and after a session. Because again, when you're working in person, you see this. When you're working online, you don't see this. So you need to try and understand it so you can start making adjustments as required. So we have these pre-post workout questionnaires. We have these post-workout questionnaires too that's included. I also like to, especially when we're working with people online, is to add a bit more information around workout progression into this process. So they get quick reminded around things like RPE or reps in reserve or whatever processes you want to use. Some little information there for reference, just to remind them just before they start the workout. It takes a few seconds to go, okay, that's how I'm going to do this. Because remember, they've not really done this before, or they might have not done this before. So these little prompts are going to be really useful. And basically, we kind of repeat this process for the first phase. We go into week 2, where we now introduce lunch on top of the breakfast. And then again, we stack this up again into week 3 down here, where we actually introduce the evening meal. So over that first phase, we've actually got them building up some nutritional protocols, looking at go-to breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, and evening meals. We've got them understanding portion control. We've got to understand feeling full and how to adjust based on fullness cues. And we've also got to start to understand how macronutrients work, because for all of these, we've been color coding everything through the whole process. Proteins red, veggies green, carbohydrates orange, and fats blue. And we see that everywhere. So they're starting to get a feel for how these work throughout that process. Again, we've had the check-ins going as well throughout this. Then once we move into the next phase, we're going to increase things. So the workout programs start to change here. We increase it slightly so we can really start progressing them. Because during this first phase of these workout programs, we've really started to understand if what they've said they're capable of is what they're actually capable of. Because remember, when you're doing all your forms, your questionnaires, you find out information, they tell you their experience level, they're saying that from a non-professional perspective. So they can fill in a form thinking, oh yeah, I'm experienced. I went to the gym for a year on and off 3 years ago. I'm an experienced gym goer. Yet in your mind, that's not an experienced gym goer. So it's all about their perception of it when you fill it in. So we can't just go straight in based off that data. What we need to do is assess that client first. So that first week of workouts, or the first phase of workouts, is designed to go and do that. It's a way to make sure that what they've said is actually accurate based on your professional opinion, not some inexperienced person's opinion, which is your client. So once we've gone through all that phase, then we can change how the workouts and stuff drip feed out to them. We can increase the whatever we need to increase on those workouts as well. And I can show you how to do that in just a moment with this group stacking technique. We then start looking at changing things around nutrition. We start introducing things like understanding macros more. We do something called a breakfast test. Again, not everyone likes to do this, but it's one of the best ways I've seen from an online perspective, because it's, again, hands over these tasks a lot to the client, so they become part of that process. And then you just give feedback on that and help question them more as a coach than anything else. So breakfast test is just a way of playing around with the macronutrients over breakfast to see how it affects their energy levels, their satiety, and so on throughout the day down here. And there's a way of actually assessing it and taking them through it all inside here. But again, we're doing our weekly check-ins here as well, keeping it really, really quite simple. We show them how to make adjustments as well based on their food as they go. And then we start getting them to track. So now what we're doing, more than saying, here's from a nutrition perspective, let's just go and do things by calories. They've never tracked by calories yet. So we actually get them to start tracking their breakfast, lunch, and dinners throughout this process here. So they can get a feel for the calories and the micronutrients that are in their food. Again, learning more about it, changing and adjusting the workouts as we go on here, going through the check-ins. As we go through this process here again, we start introducing new habits around water, around sleep, around stress, and so on. And we'll just start drip feeding those out every single week over the next couple of weeks, until eventually get to the point from a nutrition perspective where we start giving them calorie targets. Now, when it comes to calorie targets, we do this in one or two ways. We either do this with a calorie calculator where the clients can put in their details and it pumps out whatever it is for them, or we can do it in a way where you can actually add calorie targets for the client based on what you've seen so far, depending on personal preference, depending on the client, and so on. Again, all drip feeding out to them throughout this process here. And then that's how we kind of go in the final phase. So this final phase here, we've really dialed in on the workout side of it. We've really dialed in on the nutrition side of it. And then we're working our way up into our kind of end of the 12 weeks here in this process. Again, not too much changes there other than just adding in a few more extra habits to work on and so on. Now, the other thing we do in addition to this round here is not just the actual delivery of this content. We also have email sequences in here. Now, these email sequences are strategic. Some are around kind of adherence a little bit, but we want to make sure when it comes to adherence to the program that everything is kept inside the app. We don't want them going to multiple places because that's going to reduce adherence. If you can keep it all in one place and keep it simple, adherence is going to be higher. So what we do in the emails really is actually about referrals, it's about reviews, it's about upsells. So very quickly on, we have email sequences that go out looking for reviews. You want to do this quite early, within the first week or two. You want to be looking for friends to come and join this, probably around sort of week 3, just before the motivation drops off. We want to be looking at asking for reviews and testimonials wherever we can do. And of course, towards the end of the program too, we want to be doing that. And then I'd say around halfway, we want to be looking at actually doing some upsells. In fact, one of the things we talk about over at Peter Ninja in our academy, we have a course in there that talks around how to coach, not just online, but also how to do the business side, the marketing, the sales, and so on. When it comes to doing that, we have a kind of 4-point system when it comes to calls and contact. So you want to be having the contact around the first week just to make sure everything's checked and done okay. You can automate all this, of course. You then want another form of contact, which isn't officially happening. It's just kind of done off the cuff using like an SMS text message or a quick email, which is literally around sort of week 1 saying, hey, how are you getting on? It gives that more personal touch in addition to everything else. Then roughly around 2/3 of the way through the program, that's when you want to start making the upsells. And that's exactly what we're doing here. The idea is either to get them onto a call or through to a sales page. And then there we could start making them some kind of upsell offer. We want them to commit to the back-end offer, your subscription membership, before the program ends. If you're waiting to week 12 or when the program is finished to upsell, you are leaving so much money on the table. So if you're doing that and you get anything from this video from a sales perspective, change that, start making upsells halfway to 2/3 of the way through the program. That's when that process should be starting, especially for flagship style programs like this. So all that happens automatically in there. So that's in essence the structure that we have set up. Now, I mentioned around the group system and why we use groups inside here and adapting, adjusting stuff. We can make it really easy to adapt and stuff for clients. The way we do that is by we head into our coaching area. Let's say if we want to go in and change things such as adapt the progress, or if you want to change things like the calorie targets and so on, you can see down here we have an option to choose either from the calorie calculator or down here, if we just want to use the calorie targets, we can set targets for clients and just edit this for the individual client. You simply just switch this one on to go live. It really is that simple. Switch that one to go visible, and then you turn that one off, and then now you can set calorie targets for them. It takes literally seconds to go and do. I talked a little about the workout programs inside here and about adapting and adjusting these. Obviously, you can go in here and adapt to adjust them individually for the client. But if you have a big enough setup, you can have a number of different groups that have these workout programs set up. That's why we use this group stacking technique. So we go up into the group section here. We can simply go in and we can go remove the workout group that we have set up, just like so. And that will remove just that particular workout content. In fact, if I just go and give that a little refresh in here, you'll see that content then disappears. And then very simply, all I've got to go and do is go back into here based on the information I've seen from the client, hit the plus button, and I can just go and type in the workout program I want to add in. So if I just type in workouts, I can pick from whatever it is I need. So maybe they're a beginner and they want to do a 3-day gym over 3 phases in 12 weeks. I can go and add that in. And I've got this group that's pre-built out with the workouts in, or drip feeding out over 4-week phases, or scheduled, or with progressions already pre-done. And I can choose the date I want it to start on, or the day, or I can just get it started now if I really want to, and just literally add it in. And it copies in those workout programs for us that simply. Really is that easy to go and do. Again, I give that a little refresh. You can see those are then going to be added into the program. And I can do exactly the same with the coaching too. If I didn't want to give them that particular coaching program, maybe I wanted to just get them straight into habits, I can simply go up here into the groups. Again, this is what I was talking about earlier around having things adjustable using groups. I can go in here and remove the coaching content, remove it just like so. And then what I can do is just go and add in, say, some individual habits. Again, these are groups that have all been pre-built out in here. So let's say I want to add in protein. I want to do a 2-week protein program. So I can set the date I want it to start, or I can start it now straight away. And I can have that drip feed out as a protein-based habit with all the coaching resources, forms, everything we need to do with the tracking already pre-set up in that group. And that just runs for them. And not only that, if I don't want to wait for 2 weeks and come back in and add something else in, maybe I know they want to do another habit after that, I can simply go in and type in the other habit I want to add in, say carbs around activity. And I can just set that to go and start at some date in the future, say 2 weeks from now, and just add it in and so on. So it becomes really easy to adapt and adjust programs for individual clients if you have the right system and setup in place. So yes, there you go. That's how I would recommend setting up a 12-week program inside PT Distinction, just to give you an idea of how it might look in terms of the build and everything like that. I hope this has been useful, and I hope you've actually enjoyed the video and you've got something from it. I know it's been a little bit of a longer one, but hopefully this gives you an idea of exactly how you can really utilize a effective 12-week coaching program inside Peak Distinction, whether you use this for 12, 8, 16 weeks, or even use the same principles over longer periods of programs, like even a year-long program, the principles are still the same. So again, I hope this has been helpful. And as always, if you need any help and support with setting up anything inside Peak Distinction or your online fitness business, or just want to learn more about how to build, launch, and grow a successful online fitness business, then please do get in touch with us over at peakninja.com. And I'll see you at the next video.